The sun burned bright over the alien city of Kerith, casting long shadows over the open square. Thousands of alien citizens had gathered, their voices buzzing with excitement and fear. In the center of the square stood the Guardian, a massive beast covered in shimmering blue scales that caught the light like liquid glass. Its long, muscular tail swept the ground, leaving deep marks in the dusty stone. Its eyes glowed a bright gold, scanning the crowd with a slow, dangerous patience. Guardian was not a pet. It was not a soldier. It was a living legend. For centuries, it had obeyed only the royal bloodline of the Zarin Empire, serving as their protector and weapon. It had never bowed to anyone else. And it had never been tamed by force. At the front of the crowd stood Lady Vera, the young noblewoman of the Zarin court. She wore the traditional royal armor, sleek black plates lined with silver. Her silver hair glistened in the sunlight, her chin held high. She had grown up with the Guardian. She had trained beside it, fed it, spoken the sacred commands passed down through her family for generations. But today, the Guardian was restless. It growled, a low thunder that shook the ground beneath their feet. Its claws scraped against the stone as it stepped back, tail lashing from side to side. The guards kept their distance, gripping their weapons tightly. Even Vera's voice, strong and commanding, could not calm it. Guardian, she called, speaking the old words. Stand down. The beast only bared its teeth. From the back of the crowd, a voice spoke casually. It's not angry, it's confused. Heads turned. A tall human man was making his way through the mass of onlookers. He wore a dark, weather-worn jacket with sturdy boots and a travel pack slung over his shoulder. His hair was short, his jaw rough with stubble, and his eyes held a calm, steady focus, not on the crowd, not on Vera, but directly on the Guardian. The aliens stared in disbelief. Humans were rare here, and most stayed far away from the Guardian. Lady Vera's eyes narrowed. Stay back, Offworlder. This is not your concern. The man ignored her. He stepped past the guards, past the line of armored soldiers, until he was only a few meters from the towering beast. The Guardian's head lowered, its eyes locked on him. The crowd sucked in a sharp breath. One wrong move, and he would be torn apart. Vera shouted, You'll be killed. But the man didn't stop. He stepped closer and closer, until he was within reach of the beast's massive head. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't flinch. Slowly, he raised one hand, palm open. The Guardian's growl faded. Its eyes softened, the gold glow dimming to a warm amber. For a long moment, the two just stared at each other, man and beast, as if speaking without words. Then, it happened. With a slow, deliberate movement, the Guardian lowered its head. The great muscles in its neck flexed, and its body sank into a deep bow. Its long snout brushed the ground at the man's feet. The square fell silent. No one moved. No one even breathed. Lady Vera felt her chest tighten. This was impossible. The Guardian never bowed to anyone outside the royal line. Not in her lifetime. Not in her grandmother's lifetime. The thought hit her like a storm. If this human could command the Guardian, what did it mean for the Empire? The man rested his hand lightly against the Guardian's snout. Easy, he said quietly, as if greeting an old friend. The beast gave. A low, almost gentle rumble, nothing like the threatening growls from before. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some aliens whispered in awe, others in fear. The guards shifted uneasily, unsure if they should treat the human as a hero or a threat. Vera took a step forward, her voice cold but edged with shock. Who are you? The man glanced up at her, his expression unreadable. Name's Rin, he said simply. I'm just passing through. Her jaw tightened. No human just passes through here. And no human tames our Guardian. Rin smiled faintly. I didn't tame it. I earned its trust. The word sent another wave of murmurs through the crowd. Earned its trust? What did that mean? The guardian slowly rose again, towering over them all, but it stayed at Rin's side. Its body angled slightly toward him, as if ready to protect him from anyone who came too close. Vera's mind raced. This could not be allowed. The council would see this as a threat. The people would see it as a sign. And she needed answers. Her voice was sharp now. You will come with me. The council will decide what to do with you. Rin met her gaze without fear. I'm not here for your counsel. The guardian let out a deep, echoing growl. Not at Rin, but at Vera's guards, who instantly stepped back. In that moment, Vera realized something she had never felt before. She was not in control, not of the guardian, not of the situation, and perhaps not even of her own future. The council chamber of Kerith was a place of cold authority, high stone walls lined with banners, alien guards standing like statues, and a circle of towering seats where the elders sat in judgment. The air inside was heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding centuries of secrets. Rin stood in the center, his hands free, but his posture calm and unshaken. The guardian waited outside, chained by 6 guards who kept glancing over there, shoulders as if afraid the beast might break free at any moment. Lady Vera stood beside him, her arms folded, her silver hair shining under the chamber lights. She hadn't taken her eyes off him since the squared out an elder. His voice, sharp, spoke first. You claim you did not use tech or trickery, yet the guardian obeys you, something no outsider has ever done. I never claimed anything, Rin said evenly. The guardian made its choice. The elder's dark eyes narrowed. Beasts do not choose. They obey blood. Rin smirked faintly. Maybe yours, not mine. The room murmured with whispers, the words danger and outsider, floating through the air. Vera stepped forward. Elder, we must test him. If his bond with the guardian is real, let him prove it in the path of the beast. The murmur stopped instantly. The path of the beast was not a game. It was an ancient trial, one that had claimed the lives of even seasoned warriors. The elder's brows rose. You would risk the guardian? Vera's voice was firm. If he is lying, the path will end him. If he is telling the truth, then we will know the danger we face. Rin's gaze shifted to her, studying her like he was reading a map. And if I win? He asked. Her answer was cold and precise. Then the council will decide whether you keep breathing. Rin gave a small laugh, not mocking, but dangerous in its quietness. Sounds fair enough. 2 hours later, the gates of the city opened. The crowd had gathered again, lining the high walls to watch. The path of the beast began in the wastes, a deadly desert beyond Kerith's protection, filled with storms. Of razor sand, sinkholes that swallowed whole caravans, and creatures that hunted in silence. The rules were simple. Reach the heart stone before sunset and return alive. Fail, and your bones would be lost under the dunes. Vera rode a sleek desert crawler, a 4-legged beast bred for speed, while Rin walked beside the guardian. The crowd roared as the great gates closed behind them. For the first hour, they moved in silence. The wind hissed across the sand, the sun baking everything under its gaze. Vera kept stealing glances at the human, expecting him to tire, to falter. But he walked with steady steps, the guardian pacing at his side as if they had been traveling together for years. Finally, she spoke. You're calm for a man walking into certain death. Rin didn't look at her. You seem sure it's certain. It is. The path has killed stronger than you. He gave a small shrug. Then maybe they weren't walking with the right friend. She followed his eyes to the guardian, its scales glinting, head held high, scanning the horizon. There was no leash, no chain, and yet it never strayed from him. Not by midday, the wastes began to show their teeth. A shadow moved beneath the sand, long and fast. Vera's crawler hissed and bucked as something massive broke the surface. A sand predator, its jaws wide, lined with glassy teeth, lunged at them. Vera barely had time to draw her blade before the guardian moved. It slammed into the predator with bone-crushing force, tossing it aside like a rag doll. The beast roared, a sound that shook the dunes for miles. Rin placed a hand on its side, and instantly it calmed. Vera stared. That wasn't obedience. That was loyalty. Rin finally looked at her, his eyes unreadable. And you can't fake that. As they continued, the sky began to darken, a sandstorm building on the horizon. The trial was far from over. But Vera was starting to understand something dangerous. The Guardian wasn't protecting the human because it had to. It was protecting him because it wanted to. And if that bond was real, the entire balance of her world might already be shifting. The wind began to howl as the sky turned a sickly yellow. Far ahead, the Heartstone, a jagged black spire that rose from the sand like a blade, stood in the distance. But between them and their goal, the desert had begun to change. Storm was coming. Vera urged her desert crawler forward, its long limbs kicking up clouds of dust. If we don't reach shelter before it hits, we won't reach the Heartstone at all, she shouted over the wind. Rin didn't run. He kept his steady pace beside the Guardian, the beast lowering its head against the gusts, its powerful legs cutting through the sand like it was water. You move like you've done this before, she called out. I have, he said, voice calm, almost lost in the storm's roar. Her eyes narrowed. In the wastes? In worse places. The way he said it made her uneasy. What places could be worse than this? As the wind picked up, the air filled with biting grains of sand. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Shapes moved in the blur, thin, long-legged creatures with spines like spears. Desert stalkers. They never attacked in daylight, unless driven by hunger. One lunged from the haze, its spear-like limbs striking fast. Vera swung her blade and caught it in the side, but two more came from the left. Before she could react, the Guardian moved, its massive body shielding them both. With one swipe of its claw, it sent the first stalker flying. It caught the second in its jaws, snapping its spine. The third froze at the sight and vanished into the sand. The wind screamed louder now. The storm was nearly on top of them. We'll never make the Heartstone before it hits, Vera said. Rin pointed to a dark shadow half buried in the dunes. We can wait it out there. It was the ruins of an old stone outpost, its walls cracked and half swallowed by the desert. They hurried inside just as the storm hit, sealing the outside world in a wall of blinding yellow. Inside, the air was cooler but heavy with dust. The Guardian curled near the entrance, its massive frame blocking most of the wind. Vera dropped her gear, keeping her eyes on Rin. You haven't told me how you did it. How you made the Guardian bow. Rin sat against a wall, rushing sand. From his jacket. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. He studied her for a moment, as if weighing something. The Guardian's kind knew my people once, long before your empire took them. We fought beside them, bled beside them. Saved them, Vera frowned. That's impossible. The Zeman Empire discovered the Guardians. We trained them. You caged them, he said quietly. There's a difference. Her hand tightened on the hilt of her blade. You speak as if my people stole them. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Hours passed as the storm raged outside. The Guardian slept lightly, opening its eyes whenever the wind shifted too sharply. Once, Vera caught it watching Rin, not like a beast watching a master, but like a soldier watching a commander. When night came, the desert was quiet again. They left the outpost and began moving toward the Heartstone under the light of 2 moons. As they approached, the black spire loomed larger, its surface covered in ancient carvings. According to tradition, one seeking the Guardian's loyalty had to touch the Heartstone and return alive. But as they drew close, a new sound filled the air, the low, steady beat of wings. Shapes moved in the moonlight. Dozens of desert drakes circled above, their eyes glowing red, their bodies sleek and armed with hooked claws. Vera froze. They're nesting here. Rin didn't stop walking. The Guardian stepped forward, letting out a deep, commanding roar. That rolled across the dunes. The drakes screamed in reply, and then, to Vera's shock, they backed away into the night sky. She stared at him. Even the wild ones listen to you? Rin touched the Heartstone, his hand steady. Not me, he said, looking at the Guardian. Us. By the time they turned back toward the city, Vera's thoughts were no longer clear. She had started the trial to expose the human as a fraud. But now, she wasn't sure what he was. One thing, however, was certain. If the council learned the truth, they wouldn't just fear Rin. They would want him gone, permanently. The desert at night was never silent. The wind whispered through the dunes, carrying scents of predators hidden far beyond sight. The Guardian moved with slow, steady steps, its glowing eyes scanning the horizon. Vera rode her crawler just behind Rin, her mind still circling around what she had seen at the Heartstone. No warrior she knew could face drakes without bloodshed. No outsider should have known the Guardian's secrets. And yet, the proof had been right in front of her. They were halfway back to the city when the Guardian stopped suddenly, its head lifting toward the dunes to the east. Rin froze. We're being followed. Vera scanned the darkness, her eyes adjusting to the moonlight. At first, she saw nothing. Then a faint glint, the curve of a blade catching light, just before it vanished again. Assassins, she whispered. From the Koresh house. Rin gave her a sideways glance. Friends of yours? They want the Guardian dead. And you with it, she said grimly. If they succeed, they'll claim my family has lost control. They'll take my place. Rin gave a humorless smile. Politics, always messy. The first arrow came out of the dark without sound. The Guardian moved before either of them could react, its tail sweeping the air, knocking the projectile away in a spray of sparks. Then, desert came alive. Figures in black desert robes rose from the sand, their blades curved and glinting, their masks shaped like jackal faces. They moved fast, fanning out to encircle them. Vera leapt from her crawler, sword drawn. Stay behind the Guardian, she ordered. Not my style, Rin said, and before she could stop him, he was already moving toward the nearest attacker. The assassin lunged, but Rin sidestepped smoothly, catching the attacker's wrist and twisting until the blade dropped to the sand. He didn't kill him. Instead, he kicked the man into another charging from behind. The Guardian roared, slamming one assassin into the ground with a force that cracked stone beneath the sand. Its tail lashed like a whip, scattering enemies. Vera fought two at once, her blade clashing in the moonlight. She was fast, but one slip could mean death. An assassin broke through the Guardian's defense, charging at Rin with a long spear. Vera saw it too late. Rin! He turned just in time to see the spear coming, but before it could reach him, Vera was there, knocking it aside with a sharp strike. The assassin fell under her counterattack, unconscious in the sand. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Her breathing was heavy, her hair whipping in the wind. You saved me, he said quietly. Her voice was sharp, but softer than before. Don't make me do it again. The last of the assassins fled into the dunes, disappearing into the shadows. The Guardian gave a low growl, but didn't chase them. Rin crouched beside one of the fallen attackers, pulling the mask away. "They'll try again," he said. Vera nodded. "Yes, and next time, they might not fail. Then maybe next time, we make sure they don't get a second chance." Her eyes searched his face, but his expression was unreadable by the time. They set up camp among the dunes. The air had turned cold. They built a small fire, the flames painting their faces in flickering light. The Guardian rested close by, its massive form a shield against the wind. Vera sat across from Rin, still holding her sword loosely in her lap. "You could have left when the assassins came. Slipped away in the storm. But you didn't." Rin looked into the fire. "I told you, I'm not here for your counsel." "Then why are you here?" He finally met her gaze, and for the first time, she thought she saw something behind his calm, a shadow of pain. "Because I made a promise, and I intend to keep it." She wanted to ask more, but something in his voice told her this wasn't. The night took pushed out above them. The stars burned bright over the desert. The Guardian slept between them like a living wall, its slow breathing the only sound. And though she didn't want to admit it, Vera felt safer than she had in years. By morning, the desert looked calm again. The dunes stretched endlessly under the soft light of the rising suns, as if the night's blood and steel had been nothing but a dream. Rin and Vera packed in silence. The Guardian stood watch at the edge of the camp, scanning the horizon with sharp, golden eyes. When they set off, the air between them was heavy. Vera had been turning his words over in her mind. "I made a promise." Promises were dangerous things. They walked for hours before. She finally spoke. "You said the Guardian's kind knew your people." "How?" Rin didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed on the shifting sands ahead. "Long before your empire rose, there was a war that burned half the stars. My people fought in it. Alongside these beasts." Vera frowned. "The ancient. War is just a myth." He glanced at her. "So is a human taming your Guardian, right?" She had no reply. They stopped by a cluster of rock formations for shade. Rin knelt and traced something in the sand, a simple shape, curved lines that formed the outline of the Guardian's head, surrounded by marks like blades. "This is their crest," he said. "It means bound by honor. In the old days, a Guardian didn't serve bloodlines. It served the one who proved worthy, no matter their species." Vera stared at the drawing. It matched the strange carvings she had seen at the heart. "Stone. My people kept the truth hidden," Rin continued. "They didn't want anyone to remember the Guardians were once free. If your council knew, they'd destroy me before they let that truth spread." She felt the weight of his words. If this was true, everything she had been taught, the pride of her family, the legacy of her people, was built on a lie. They were halfway to the city when the air changed. It was subtle at first, a tension, the way the Guardian's head lifted higher, its nostrils flaring. Then Vera saw it. A line of figures on the horizon, moving fast. Not assassins this time. Soldiers. Her breath tightened. "The council knows you're coming back. They've sent an execution squad." Rin's eyes hardened. "Not here to talk, then." The soldiers approached in formation, their armor gleaming, their weapons crackling with electric energy. At their center, a banner fluttered, the mark of the high seat itself. This was no arrest. This was an erasure. The first volley of energy bolts streaked across the sand. The Guardian leapt in front of them, scales flaring with light as it absorbed the hits. The air sizzled around them. Vera shouted, "They'll kill the Guardian too." Rin's voice was steady. Not while I'm breathing." With a signal only it seemed to understand, the Guardian charged, a living storm of claws and fury. Sand exploded in every direction. Soldiers were thrown from their feet. Vera fought beside. Rin, blades flashing. For the first time, they moved in perfect sync, his fluid, efficient strikes matching her swift, precise counters. When the last soldier fled into the dunes, the battlefield was silent, except for the Guardian's heavy breathing. Vera looked. At Rin, her chest rising and falling. "If we return now, they'll try again, and next time they'll bring more." "Then we don't return," Rin said simply. Her eyes widened. "You want to run?" "No," he said, turning toward the city's distant silhouette. "I want to walk back with the Guardian and make sure the whole city sees exactly who it kneels to." The way he said it sent a shiver through her. For the first time, she wasn't sure if the human was here to protect her world or change it forever. Asterisk, the city of Kerith woke to a sound it had never heard before, the heavy, rhythmic footsteps of the Guardian echoing through its streets, not at the call of the royal house, but following a human. Dust rose as Rin walked at the front, his dark jacket torn from battle, his pace calm, every step measured. Beside him, the Guardian's golden eyes glowed like molten suns, each movement sending a ripple of muscle through its massive frame. Behind them, Lady Vera rode her crawler, her gaze sharp, scanning every rooftop and shadow. She could feel the city watching, not in curiosity, but in fear. By the time they reached the main square, thousands had gathered. The high walls of the council chamber loomed above, its banners fluttering in the hot wind. The elders stepped out onto the high balcony, their voices amplified by the chamber's speakers. "Human," the high seat thundered, "you have stolen what belongs to the Zarin Empire. Stand down and surrender the Guardian, or be cut down where you stand." Rin stopped at the center of the square. The Guardian stopped with him, its head level with his shoulder. He didn't look up at the elders. His eyes swept the crowd instead. "I didn't steal anything," he said, voice carrying through the open air. "You only think you own what you've caged, but the Guardian decides for itself." The high seat's voice rose in anger. "It serves the bloodline." Rin turned, placing a hand on the Guardian's scaled neck. "Show them." The Guardian stepped forward. The ground trembled under its weight. Its eyes locked on the balcony high above. And then, slowly, it lowered its head. One massive leg bent. Then the other. Before the council, before the city, the Guardian bowed, not to a crown, not to a banner, but to a human dot. The square erupted in gasps and shouts. Some cheered, others cursed, but no one looked away. Vera watched the elders' faces turn pale. They could no longer pretend this was chance. This was a choice. The high seat's voice faltered. "You dare mock our rule?" Rin looked up at them, calm but unyielding. "No, I'm reminding you what real loyalty looks like. You can't buy it. You can't inherit it. You earn it." The Guardian lifted its head again and let out a roar, so deep the air shook. The sound rolled across the square, over the walls, and into every corner of the city. Vera dismounted and stepped to Rin's side. Her voice was steady, but her choice of words was deliberate. "From this day forward, the Guardian's loyalty is shared, and so is mine." The crowd murmured in shock. A noble openly standing beside an outsider against the council. The high seat shouted for the guards, but none moved. Every soldier kept their eyes on the Guardian, and the human it had chosen. Rin gave the faintest of smiles. "Looks like the city's made its decision." Without another word, he turned and walked from the square, the Guardian following close, its tail sweeping dust in its wake. Vera walked beside him, her chin high. For the first time in centuries, The Guardian had chosen its own path, and the city of Kerith would never be the same.